Japan American Society of Hawaii, and welcome to Japan Currents, a public affairs event designed to enlighten us on a topic of current interest and provide a forum for discussion on the topic. Today's topic is sister state and sister city relationships, exploring current possibilities for collaboration. As we all know, Hawaii and Japan have a very special and unique relationship, ties that go deep, rich in tradition and cultural values. Tonight, we hope to explore how we can continue to build on the Hawaii-Japan relationship, focusing on the sister relationships that we have together. Before we begin, I'd like to welcome special guests who have joined us this evening. Governor David Ige and Mrs. Dawn Amano Ige. Former Governor of Hawaii, George Ariyoshi and Mrs. Jean Ariyoshi. Representative Dale Kobayashi. Back there. Councilwoman Ann Kobayashi. And our former mayor of the city and county of Honolulu, and he is the current president and CEO of Hawaii Tourism and Lodging Association, Mufi Hanneman. Mayor Kirk Caldwell will be joining us, he's on his way, as well as Consul General and Mrs. Ito. They are also on their way, so they'll be joining us a little later. I'd like to introduce our board members too. First of all, Chairman Steve Sombrero. Our Vice Chair, Jerry Itsuda. Secretary, Betty Brown. Immediate past Chair, Sal Miwa. And let's see, I have a long list here, but not everybody's here yet. So Dan Donnell, I know you're here. He's our director and former chair. Howard Hamamoto. Nobu Inada. Alex Jampel. Akemi Kurokawa. John Rankin. And Barbara Tanabe, who you'll be hearing from a little later. So at this time, I'd like to call up and introduce our chairman, Steve Sombrero.
Thank you, Rena. Good evening, everybody, and konbanwa. Aloha. We are grateful that you have chosen to be with us tonight, in spite of the 24 hours non-stop CNN, the corona negative news that we hear every day, CNN. Tonight we are going to ask you to practice proper Japanese etiquette. Instead of shaking hands, we want you to bow to each other. When you laugh, please cover your mouth. And no eye contact, please. No, just kidding. But seriously, folks, this coronavirus is happening at probably one of the worst times in the history of Japan, because as you know, this year is the 2020 Summer Olympics. And so we're all watching what's going to happen. I recently was visited by one of my clients from Japan. He's a Forbes-ranked billionaire guy who's in banking, real estate, hotel, and so forth. And I asked him, are you worried at all about the effect of the coronavirus in the Japan economy? And he said, Sombrero-san, 試練があって当たり前です。それはしょうがない。これで日本がまた強くなる。And in a way, I kind of understand it, because if you really think about it, Japan has survived some of the most worst catastrophes. The biggest typhoons, the biggest floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, nuclear events, both during and after the war. And they always not just survive, but they thrive and become better. In fact, we see this in Japan's advanced technologies and building designs, infrastructure, highways, the Shinkansen that's always there on time, and in spite of all the tragedies that they endure, they're always there and they're perfecting their technologies. And their civil defense warning system is something that we all admire and respect, and probably the forefront of the world. Is it any wonder then that in spite of this coronavirus, that Japan's yen continues to strengthen? Today it went up to 102 yen to the dollar. I think it's back at 104 yen. It's amazing. Why is that? That's because the world knows that Japan will make it through this crisis, and not only that, they will come up with amazing solutions and ideas, and maybe even the cure for the vaccine to cure this terrible disease. And speaking of disasters, this week commemorates the great Tohoku earthquake and tsunami of March 2011. Did you know that JASH played a very important role in raising over $4 million to help our friends in Fukushima and Sendai? JASH was also there to help the Kumamoto earthquake victims of 2016. JASH was there to help the victims of the Kyushu flooding of 2019. And of course, JASH was there to help the Ehimemaru accident off of Diamond Head right here. That is why I am so proud to be a part of this organization called JASH, the Japan America Society of Hawaii. We are the go-to organization whenever disaster hits Japan. Members, thank you for your continued support. You are why we're able to fulfill our mission and all the good works. If there are non-members here, I urge you to consider becoming a member tonight. And today we are here to learn about the wonderful sister city and sister state relationships that we have between Hawaii and Japan. Like anything else, good relationships boil down to the one-on-one relationships between individuals. Tonight, we are so appreciative of the relationships we have with each and every one of you who have chosen to join us tonight at the JASH Japan Currents. Thank you, and domo arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to welcome now to the podium the Governor of the State of Hawaii, Governor David Ige.
Good evening and aloha. Japan, along with the rest of the world, has been in news lately, as Steve said. The entire world has been on edge over the coronavirus, but we've been working together to collaborate on containment and a cure. As you may recall, the Princess, what was the cruise ship called? Grand Princess, and the Princess before was anchored in Tokyo Bay, and we've had conversations, as some of them were from Hawaii. And certainly our sister state relationship and the long relationship between Japan and Hawaii allowed us to work through that episode without any fanfare or any excitement. There's one thing I am certain, is that the Japanese-Hawaii relationship is the most important to Hawaii on many different fronts, and it is organizations like JASH that really help us in the person-to-person relationships that are so important. Hawaii and Japan share a rich history dating back to 1868, when the Ganemono arrived here in Hawaii to work on the plantations. Today, the Japanese community thrives in Hawaii in business, education, community organizations, and government. Our state established its first sister state relationship with Japan in 1981, and Governor Ariyoshi was instrumental in that first sister state relationship with Fukuoka. Since then, we have established sister state relationships with Hiroshima, Ehime, Hokkaido, and of course, Okinawa. These relationships were established based on the link between Hawaii and Japan. And it's the foundation for rich history, culture, and educational exchanges between Hawaii and Japan. We have groups such as the Chamber of Commerce and the JCs that actively support strengthening the person-to-person relationships with Japan. The Hawaii Fukuoka Kenshin-kai hosted delegates from the Fukuoka Prefectural Assembly who came to visit us on opening day. And there has been a delegation from Fukuoka every single year that the sister state relationship with the Fukuoka Kenshin-kai for many, many years. The state and our sisters will benefit from economic investments and marketing opportunities. In February 2019, a Hokkaido product exhibition and Hokkaido Ainu culture exhibit was on display at the International Marketplace here in Honolulu. And our keiki, through student and teacher exchanges, will learn from one another. Some highlights from last year's exchange include the 29th annual student exchange program where 25 high school students from Okinawa traveled to Hawaii. And last year, over 70 baseball youth and their families traveled to Hawaii for the 17th annual Hawaii Ehime Goodwill Youth Baseball Exchange. All of these activities, big and small, serve to continue to deepen our relationship and friendship that goes back hundreds of years. And I, for one, hope that will continue into the future for many, many more generations to come. And as we face our future together, as we face the global challenges that confront us, and seize the exciting opportunities before us, our sister state relationships will be an inspiration to explore the current possibilities for collaboration, and most importantly, that will lead to future relationships moving forward. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Our sister state relationships are such a fundamentally important part of our person-to-person relationship with Japan, which is more than business, more than friendship. It really is about family. Aloha and mahalo.
Thank you, Governor Egan. As you can tell, we have live music serenading. So I hope you all can hear the speakers, but can't control that. So at this time, actually, I'd like to introduce Consul General Koichi Ito, Mrs. Misako Ito, and Deputy Consul General Yamanaka. And I would like to ask Consul General Ito to please come up to the podium and say a few words.
Good evening and aloha. First of all, about the coronavirus and it's tough time now, and just let me share with you what we've been doing here as a Consul General. So the first contact with the state government on this issue was when a Japanese visitor came back from Hawaii to IG and found the policy on the test. And since then, we established a close contact between the State Department of Health and now with the Japanese Ministry of Health. So we've been maintaining a very good communications at the expert level. So I do hope that this would help when we face this, to tackle this issue, good work for the Japan and Hawaii cooperation. And for this sister state relationships, I've been with the Japanese Foreign Service for more than 30 years, 34 years actually. And I've been posted in many different countries, different communities, including those in China, Southeast Asia, of course United States, Malaysia, Switzerland. And out of those 30 plus years, 15, 16 years I posted those countries, and I really realize after all the good relationship between country and country, or nation to nation, or government to government, is after all based on the good relations between people and people. People to people exchange is so important. This is my strong belief. So, needless to say, in a lengthy manner, but this sister city relationship is the core for promoting the good relationship and goodwill friendship between local communities and people. So, I really appreciate on this part of the United States in Hawaii, such good and deep relationship has been established with many Japanese local communities, as explained by Governor Irie, sister state, all those Hokkaido, Hiroshima, Fukuoka, Okinawa. And also there's this sister city relationship, not only with this city of Honolulu, but other county as well. They have very good relations. Here in Honolulu, we have very good relation with the Hiroshima, Fukuoka, Naha, Uwajima, and Nagaoka. Although we don't have, we missed Nagaoka firework this year, and Chigasaki. And recently, last week, we had Chigasaki Chamber of Commerce visiting Honolulu. They had a very good exhibit of their business campaign at the Shirokiya Village in Alamona Center. And also the last year, we celebrated the 60th anniversary of the sister city relationship between Hiroshima and Honolulu. And also in other neighbor islands, like I know the Hilo, they have very good relation with the Higashi Hiroshima city, also, as well as with the Higashi Hiroshima Chamber of Commerce. And in Kauai, they have good relation with Yamaguchi. And I'm so happy to see, well, yeah, of course, the almost every community in the United States has a good relationship with the Japanese local community, but maybe this is the place where we can see the most active those interactions and exchanges with the Japanese local government and community. And not only, for the friendship and goodwill between two people, and as I indicated, it's also important to promote a business relationship between those local communities. And those cities like Chigasaki or the Nagaoka, I've been informed that in those cities where I have good relation with the Honolulu, all those everything Hawaii are so well accepted by local communities. Some of those cities, they have those Hawaii festival, or in other communities, I don't know, I forgot the name of the city, but maybe was it? But the city of Star, once a year, we have aloha in their offices to demonstrate their good relations with Hawaii. So I'm so appreciative of those relations that Hawaii and Honolulu and the local, the county have with the Japanese counterparts. And I believe this tonight event also will serve further strengthening our relations. And I I do hope they give success through our discussion this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council General Ito. Right now, I'd like to welcome to the podium and welcome to Japan Currents, the Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu, Mayor Kirk Caldwell.
Good afternoon and aloha. You know, for all the problems that we have, that the world has, whether it be COVID-19 or issues regarding looking inward and nationalism and other things, I mean, I come here and we look out here and it's pretty darn perfect. And we are really lucky where we live. I think I'm very biased, but I think it's the best place you could choose anywhere in the world to make your home. And it's because of the diversity that we see in this room as we look at each other and our focus on trying to find connections. You know, we talk in Hawaii about, so where you work, where you went to school, where you live, and if people from outside of Hawaii would think we're being very nosy. Niele is the Hawaiian word. But what we're trying to find out is, how do I get to know who you are? And perhaps you know someone I know, maybe we work in the same place, and now we're connected. So it's not about bridges, it's not about walls, it's about bridges. And that's why, you know, this afternoon it's just so important. I know Governor Ige is so busy. I see him on TV every day for hours at a time, dealing with the issues on COVID-19, and he's taken the time to come here with like so many of us here today. And I really want to thank the Japan American Society and the Embassy of Japan and the National Association of Japan American Societies for bringing us together, because even though we are facing these challenges with a health crisis, life doesn't stop. We don't pull back and do nothing. We continue to get together in ways that are where we protect ourselves, but we continue to build those bridges and not to forget who we are. And so it's so important, sister-state relationships, sister-city relationships. And you know, think of Dwight Eisenhower, a man who, you know, knows much about war, saw the horrors of it firsthand, and led the efforts in Europe. When he became president of the United States, he said, I don't want to see another war between our countries. And of course, the United Nations had been established and other things, but he really felt it was about people to people. If people could get to know each other on a very local kind of level, not at the highest national or international level, perhaps we'd develop greater understanding, get over our prejudices, and avoid war in the future. And he implemented through this International White House Conference on Citizen Diplomacy, the sister city relationship. And Honolulu quickly jumped up and took advantage of this, you know, looking for ties, believing that different backgrounds, different customs, different religions, and getting to appreciate those differences would mean there'd be less chance of a conflict ever occurring again. And so Honolulu has many sister city relationships, more than I think we should have actually. But it's not because there can be too many, it's more we need active relationships, real active reasons for it. And the relationships our city and county of Honolulu has with cities in Japan are all about being very active. And when you think about it, and I want to go down them really quickly, and by the way, we have sister city relationships on every continent on the globe except Antarctica. So we got to look for one there. But our first sister city, which we just celebrated about a year and a half ago, was with the city of Hiroshima. And right after that was Naha. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary of Naha in a couple months. Two cities devastated by war. A war that started here in Pearl Harbor in the Pacific and ended in those cities. In Naha, you know, in May of 1945, totally devastated. And Hiroshima, where the first atomic bomb was dropped. But right after that was Tokyo. You know, I was just reading recently, in March of 1945, the Americans dropped firebombs in the city of Tokyo. Over 100,000 people died in a matter of one night. More than died in the initial blast in Hiroshima. Over time, more died. But these cities devastated by war are now our sister cities and our friends, and we go there all the time. And I can't ever imagine either of us looking at each other as enemies ever again. And it comes through that hard work of a sister city relationship. But after that, Uejima, not so much devastated by war, but still related to the military, because it involved that nuclear submarine that came up and sunk this ship and killed basically young men, boys, and their teachers. And out of that tragedy came a strong relationship, one of the strongest relationships. We just honored the 19th anniversary of this with many of you in this room. Important to make sure that healing that came out of Hiroshima, Naha, and Tokyo, when bad things still happen, we quickly come back together and heal the wound. After that is Nagaoka, another city devastated by war. And for some of you, as you may know, Nagaoka is a small town, about 350,000 people today. And but it was a town where Admiral Yamamoto was born and raised. It was a town where on August 3rd of 1945, just days before the atomic bomb, the Americans firebombed the city to the ground. Really no military value. Many folks from Tokyo sent their families to Nagaoka thinking it was safe, and it wasn't. And they set off fireworks every August 3rd. You know, here in America, we think of it as a celebratory thing. It's an honorific action taken. And of course, they now do this at the Honolulu Festival every year. They did it at Pearl Harbor a couple of years ago. And very powerful and very strong relationship. And after that came Chigasaki, not a city so much devastated by war, but one that celebrates our surf culture. They have Aloha Friday. They have Ren's Aloha shirts, not made by Ren's. Very cool and understated and not gaudy. And they have surf contests. And they love Hawaii and we love them. So it's important. This event tonight is important despite all our other challenges. And I want to thank Shin Koyamada for speaking tonight and coming here to talk about the Sister City International efforts and what else we need to do. And I want to thank Paul Yonamine, the executive chairman of CPB, who's here tonight. We're lucky that we got Paul back. You know, his family's from Hawaii. He spent most of his time in Japan. And I think with his return and becoming the executive chairman of CPB and also becoming the first non-Japanese to head Sumitomo Bank, to head any large bank in Japan, is something I think we can all be proud of, because while he is a Keiki Okaina through his family. And so I want to thank Paul for his leadership and, you know, building bridges between our two countries. He does it effortlessly. Almost, for me, it's like watching a ballet or something. And so I want to thank Paul too. And I want to thank all of you for coming here to Waikiki, one of the most beautiful places ever. And continue to work to make sure that we become better people globally. And this is part of that effort. Thank you. Mahalo. Love all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Caldwell. Our moderator tonight really needs no introduction. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, was the first female news co-anchor of Asian descent in Honolulu, is a renowned public relations and communications professional. Her most important role, however, is that she is a board member, a director on the JASH board. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Barbara Tanabe.
Thank you very much, Raina. It's really a pleasure for me to be able to be a moderator for this program. I just also want to thank the speakers who have come up here and shared their personal thoughts and stories about the sister city and sister state relationships that we here in Hawaii enjoy, because it's a wonderful setup for the panel discussion that we are about to have. But before we really get started with Shin and Paul, I'd like to call up Mr. Paul Kelly, who's the president of the National Association of Japan-American Societies, because it is he who made this program possible. So, Peter, if you could just come up and share a few words.
Thank you, Barbara. Peter Kelly from the National Association of Japan-American Societies in Washington, D.C. It's always a pleasure to be out of Washington, and the man is right. What a beautiful place to come to. It's lovely to be here, to see old friends, past board chairs, Dan, Sal, and current board chair Steve. Oh, I made eye contact with you. Raina and Ed Hawkins. There are 38 Japan-American societies around the country. The oldest was formed in Boston in 1904, and the most recent in North Carolina in 2016. All of them devote their time to establishing the people-to-people relationship and the relationship between Japan and the United States at the local level, which Steve spoke of so eloquently a few minutes ago. The National Association of Japan-American Societies, where I work, our function is to deliver Japan-related programming to our members. We offer 6 grants for covering different aspects of the U.S.-Japan relationship. And the Japan-American Society of Hawaii, under Reina's leadership, is a regular winner in our grant competitions. We have a business speaker series funded by Keidanren, which there have been 3 of them here, featuring Hitachi, Toto, and your local company, Dietrich. We also offer a recognition for Americans who have served in the U.S. military in Japan. There are 8 of those programs that happen each year, and one of them is here in Hawaii for the last 3 years, coinciding with the annual visit of the Maritime Self-Defense Force training ship. Consul General has been kind enough to host that event at his wonderful garden for the last several years, and we hope that will happen again this year. In our art curator program, the Japan-American Society of Hawaii hasn't participated directly, but the Honolulu Museum of Art's Stephen Solel has given lectures about the Michener collection, your famous Michener collection of ukiyo-e in Seattle and in Pittsburgh. But our biggest program is this program, the Japan Currents. It's a public affairs program. There are 14 of these Japan Currents programs happening this year between February and March at Japan-American Societies. Each one features a speaker from Japan and one from the United States. And it's an important way to keep the discussion at the public affairs level fresh between our 2 countries. Each of the societies chooses its own theme. We don't specify what the theme ought to be. And so, for example, last week in Houston, the theme was the exports of natural gas from Texas to Japan, which is of enormous significance, strategic significance for Japan, and also, of course, for Texas. In Atlanta, the theme was trade, and as you all know, trade is an ongoing topic of discussion between the United States and Japan. And in Cincinnati, the theme was corporate governance, which has recently become a big theme. And as you would imagine, somebody did ask the question about Carlos Ghosn. How is that going? This year, here in Hawaii, this is the only society that has chosen sister city relationships as its theme. And it's a wonderful idea, both paid respect to both by Governor Ige and Mayor Caldwell. So we're happy to be offering this program. We're delighted at the subject that has been chosen, and I look forward to hearing from our speakers. Thank you.
Okay, now we're getting to the meat of our program. In your program, you have the biographies of our 2 speakers, so I'm not going to go into great detail. But here's what we will do. We will start first with Mr. Shin Koyamada, who is the founder and CEO, or chairman, I should say, of his own foundation, the Koyamada International Foundation. But the reason I'm so excited that he's here is because I see in his face the new generation of the sister city relationships, and it's always wonderful to have a young face. That's not to say Paul is an oldster. He has more energy than most people that I know who's half his age. Paul was the former president of IBM Japan, and during his tenure, Japan IBM unit contributed more to the bottom line of IBM New York than any other unit. He's proven his mettle, he's a successful businessman, and as Kirk, our mayor, just said, we are so lucky to have him back here as the chairman and CEO of CDB. And without going much further, I want to begin first by calling up Shin, and then we will have Paul do their presentations. They will take about 20 minutes each, and then we'll have Q&A afterwards. So be prepared to ask some questions, but remember we don't want to go too long because we don't want to be the reason that we are keeping you from the delicious food that's going to be outside. So Shin, dozo, onegai shimasu.
I love the music. This is so nice. Well, it's nice to be in Hawaii. I just came back from Russia. I was there for 2 weeks, and I stopped by Tokyo, my hometown Okayama. 岡山出身です。どうもよろしくお願いします。I was surprised by speaking, some of you speaking really good Japanese and fluent Japanese. I was thinking, should I speak in Japanese tonight, or English, or Russian, or Chinese? But it's nice to be back. I was here many years ago, about 5-6 years ago with my parents. That was my first time to be in Hawaii, and it's very nice to celebrate my birthday tomorrow with a Hawaiian energy. Today's my last day as 37. So, wow, this is a great opportunity. Speaking of coronavirus, my longtime good friend Katsunobu Kato-san, who is a health minister right now, is doing a great job, and he's on TV every day. I just saw him a few weeks ago. To briefly share how I got to the United States. So we have only 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna quickly go through it. I'm originally from Japan. I moved to Los Angeles about 20 years ago to pursue my American dream as an actor. And I was in the movie The Last Samurai. I've been on the Disney Channel. It's been my pleasure to be in Los Angeles and pursue my dreams. And my wife and I started our production company. We've been running our production company, making movies, shows, comic books, so on. And my wife and I also started our foundation about in 2008. So we've been really busy handling acting, producing, running our foundation, and now Sister Cities International. So how I got involved with the Sister Cities International? Did you know about Sister Cities International? Do you know about? Okay, so if you can you raise hand if you know Sister Cities International? Okay, so this is great. So I can get to introduce you about what the Sister Cities International is all about. So I was involved. Let me switch to this. In 2007, I was attending San Jose, Okayama Sister Cities celebration. They're celebrating 60th anniversary. So Okayama, San Jose has been the third oldest sister city in the United States. And I was very amazed. And that's when I met then chairman of Sister Cities International, Tim Quigley, who came up to me, Shin, I know who you are. are you interested in running for the board for the Sister Cities International? I was like, what is Sister Cities International? I never heard about Sister Cities, yes, but what is that organization? He was very consistent, and I told him, okay, I will accept for 1 year. So as a chair, he appointed me for 1 year. So I get to learn about what SCI does, what the organization is all about. And when I got in at the Sister Cities International, I was so amazed what they do at the national level, helping sub-national levels, and I got very involved. In 2008, I ran for the national election. So, national board member of Sister Cities International, you have to run for it, like politics. And the SCI members vote for the national board members. And when I ran for it, I had 16 candidates running for the 10 seats. And fortunately, I won at the first place. So I was very fortunate. I was like, wow, they really believe in me. So that was last year. So this is my second year, and next year I'm gonna run for again. But to briefly explain about what the SCI, for some of you can't read the small fonts, founded by U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the mayor mentioned about. In 1956, Sister Cities International is a non-partisan 501c3 nonprofit which serves as the national membership organization for individual sister cities, counties, states, across the United States. SCI's mission is to promote peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation. One individual, one community at a time. This is very important. We work with our members to play an essential part in creating a more peaceful world through people-to-people exchanges and initiatives. This network unites tens of thousands of citizen diplomats and volunteers in nearly 400 member cities, counties, and states with over 2,000 partnerships in more than 140 countries. That's a lot of countries that we represent. SCI is one of the long-standing partnerships with the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, BCA, to advance foreign relations and people-to-people diplomacy. Our relationship with Japan is more than 60 years old and reflects one of our most vibrant, engaged, oldest, and largest partnerships. Currently, SCI members have at least 162 sister city relationships with 152 Japanese cities as of last year. So that's a brief introduction of SCI. Every year at SCI until last year, we host annual conference, Sister Cities International Conference. First time when I attended the annual conference was in Virginia Beach in 2017. We had our members coming to attend our events and talk about what they do at the local sister cities to share information and people. So we help each other among our members. Last year, 2018, we did annual conference in Aurora, Colorado. We had about 500 people. Last year, we did in Houston, Texas. We had about 900,000 people. At the annual conference last year, during our annual conference, we had U.S.-Japan Summit, we had U.S.-Africa Summit, we had U.S.-China Summit, we had a U.S.-Germany Summit, and we had many summits going on, and also the Youth Leadership Summit. So we had about 150 youth people coming to our annual conference, and that's one of the things what we do. So the third thing is funding. So how does SCI get funding? So SCI, 1/3 of the funding comes from the State Department. So they give us about $400,000-$500,000 a year. We work closely with ECA at the State Department. Another 1/3 is from our SCI members. So local cities, counties, states, government, They pay us annual dues. And another 1/3 is thrill events. So that's how we run SCI. So I've done so many since I joined SCI. My focus is to engage empowering global youth in sister cities and engage them at the Youth Leadership Summit during the SCI annual conference. I'm the youngest national board member and only Japanese among 24 national board members. And so what I do is to really engage and explain to them what we do and help them hear what they are going through, and that's what we do. Second things, my focus is what I've done is supporting, attending local sister city anniversary events. For example, I've attended 50th anniversary for Osaka, San Francisco, which ended for political reasons, but another one, 60th San Jose, Okayama Sister Cities anniversary in Okayama. I joined the delegation representing SCI. It was a wonderful experience. So if you want me to join your delegation to your local sister cities, please call me up. I will do my best to join you guys. Third things is connecting SCI to Japanese central government, such as my connection to Prime Minister's office, Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Consul General, Embassy of Japan, as well as key Japan-related similar non-profit organization and Japanese corporate sponsors. So for the SCI, at the SCI, US-Japan has been the oldest and largest sister cities we represent, and it has been ignored. So I was wondering, how come SCI is not engaging US-Japan sister cities at the national level? So that's the things that I wanted to focus on when I came in. I'm going to help SCI. I love what they do. So these are the things that I've been doing: youth, helping local sister cities, bridging Japanese national government to SCI, the embassy and consulate to SCI, and bringing Japan, like a Japan-American society to SCI, and then bringing Japanese corporation. I got some great Japanese sponsors like HIS and Toyota. We brought the sponsorship to SCI. Also, what we do is we develop in binational summits. So we've done US-Japan, US-China, US-Russia, US-Australia, US-New Zealand, and we will focus on trilateral relationships. So that's some of the things we do at the SCI, representing local sister cities at the national level to make sure that the relationship is very active. So yeah, this is some of the things I do. That's Norma Mineta, a good friend, and me at one of the events, and the Prime Minister Abe Akie-san at the Prime Minister's residence last year, and Foreign Minister Kono-san last year. I did a meet and greet with him. So you see the young people that I've been hanging out with, and I'm trying to hear their voices and trying to help them for what they need. Moving on to, so besides SCI, we started our foundation in 2008, Koyamada International Foundation, KIF. So what we do is basically, we have a 6 global agenda: fostering youth leadership, empowering girls and women, providing disaster relief, ending extreme poverty, building people-to-people relations, and advancing sustainable development goals. So we have a 7 national chapter organization in other countries, and we have a partnership in each agenda. So for example, fostering youth leadership, our global partner is JCI, World Headquarters, Junior Champion International. Empowering girls and women, we just became partner with the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. to do gender-based violence prevention program, providing disaster relief, natural disaster like a Tohoku, we've helped so much, raising funds, ending extreme poverty, building people-to-people exchange. This is where we became partner with SCI, and advancing sustainable development goals. I'm sure local governments in the United States are very focusing on SDGs. So we are very active on the SDGs. So as you saw how SCI is representing over 140 countries. So we have 10 full-time staff in DC, and it's very hard to represent 140 countries. So me personally, as a board member of SCI, but I can't do it all by myself. So we've built grassroots relationship with many communities and universities in Japan. So my idea was to bring in my team to SCI and help SCI to rebuild, reactivate the sister cities relationship. It had been very active, but it's been kind of slowing down. So what I like to do is to bring it up what it used to be. So we signed an MOU with the Sister Cities International. And so this is how we structured our partnership. Basically, Sister Cities International, working closely with the State Department, US member city county states, and us, KIF Japan, KIF United States. And we work closely with the local governments in Japan, universities, non-profit organization, and we do the work basically. And we're working on what we did is the US Japan Prefecture, like Okayama Sister City Conference in Japan, and following year in the United States, Japan, and a US state Sister Cities Conference. What we could bring is the national SCI members to your state, and from other countries. Our members are not only US members, but we have members from other cities from other countries. And what I'm thinking is to partner up with local corporate sponsors and a local nonprofit organization and local sister city leadership like a Japan American Society, Hawaii, to be very inclusive, to work together to make this conference work. We all have to work together to strengthen our sister city relationship between the people of the United States and Japan. So last year, what we did is 2019 Japan-Texas Leadership Symposium in San Antonio, Texas. Our chair of SCI is a mayor of San Antonio. So we hosted this Japan-Texas Leadership Symposium in Texas. Thanks to Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, we got grants from Japan's MOFA directly. It came to our foundation, and we decided to work with SCI to do this amazing event. It's to strengthen the sister city relationship with the people in Japan and the people in Texas. And Peter Keeley came, thank you for coming, and you spoke at our symposium. We had about 250 people. So anyway, well, this is one of the things we did last year. We had amazing people, government leadership, community leaderships, and that's the second lady of the United States. We're a non-partisan non-profit organization. So we have mayors and government leaders and community leaders, and what we did was to promote economic exchanges between Texas and Japan, and also the cultural exchanges to promote Japanese language at this event. So next year we're planning to do, actually this year in October we're planning to do as the follow-up event to the Japan-Texas Leadership Symposium in Okayama, but with the coronavirus going on, we see how it goes. We will keep working on developing this event, but this is one of our ideas to do event in the United States, Japan, United States and Japan, maybe Japan in Okayama, Tokyo, Kagoshima, we go back and forth, so we can keep going, promoting the importance of Sister Cities International, bringing everybody together to share the problems and issues that we have. How come things are not working out? How are you raising money? What kind of programs you're doing? So we represent at the national level, so we like to bring those people and exchange ideas and work together. So I think my time is running out, but quickly, in 3 goals, what I'd like to do as a SCI board member is to create Japan-US Sister Cities Foundation in Tokyo, equivalent to SCI. There's no organization like that in Tokyo, and a lot of Japanese and US sister cities are suffering from funding too. So this could be an avenue to get funding into this foundation and help local sister cities from Japan side and the US side. So to get to that point, I have to do this annual conference to bring people together. So eventually we create an organization all together and get the money and help local cities. That's my goal eventually. And partnering with the United Nations agency, we represent cities, so I think there's a lot to, we can work together on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. This is a very big things around the world, the global issues. And also working closely with a local sister city organization. So thank you very much, and I'm sure if you have any questions, please ask your question, and after the event, please come to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shin. What wonderful big ideas. And now we're gonna call up Paul Yonamine.
Thank you, Barbara. Good evening, everyone. First, you'll see this picture. It's a younger picture of mine because I didn't want to look too old compared to Jim. So as I talk, just, think of me like this photograph. But anyway, I wanted to thank Jash, for having me tonight, and also for giving me the Bridge Award last October. And it was quite an honor, and I think a lot of things were said at that event. I spent most of my career trying to bridge Japanese organizations with U.S. organizations. I think I did a pretty good job, most times. I have never bridged a city or a state. As a lot of our themes here are tonight about sister cities and sister states. So I'm not an expert at this topic by any means, but I think probably Steve and Raina asked me to speak tonight because of my background of bridging even in the private sector. So just remember that, not an expert. Might be, some of my comments might be, possibly off topic. But I think my role today is to present some challenges, to try and stimulate more dialogue as well. So again, please keep me in mind with this photo. All right, so a lot of this has already been said, so I'm not going to duplicate here. But when I did some research, they call the sister state, sister city. A lot of cities and countries around call it twinning, and so that wasn't a word that I was too familiar with. It started in the 1920s actually, and then as Shin mentioned, with President Eisenhower, really started to gain more momentum after World War II. There's a feel-good part of it. I was recently in Okinawa, and one always likes to try and explore their ethnicity and their ethnic roots. So, but in addition to that, a lot to do with, peace, friendship, and cultural exchange. I think as a lot of countries tried to decentralize, government, especially pushing a lot of things to local governments, there was more of a focus in trying to get local governments to become more entrepreneurial, to drive capacity building and economic development. And I think that's an ongoing theme with a lot of the twinning efforts. So, the city and county of Honolulu, the state of Hawaii, and I'm not touching all the other counties in Hawaii today, just for the lack of time, but the state of Hawaii and city and county of Honolulu had a lot of criteria and requirements in establishing sister relationships. And I researched this over the net. It's all available publicly. There were a lot of commonalities between the state and the city. Some areas like mutual economic advantage, grassroots support, these are some of the criteria. Expanded cultural, educational, and governmental exchanges, for example. Under requirements, participation by the private sector. That seems to be a common theme. And then on the city and county of Honolulu side, a lot of sister relationships with historical, cultural, ethnic relationships. Similar in population size or character. And there are always proposed programs. So a lot of criteria and requirements, and I'm sure a lot of that was considered as they went ahead and looked at sister opportunities. And so, coming to the summit in 2021, in May 2021, there will be a summit, and it'll be interesting to see, to what extent we have adherence or we possibly need to revise, some of this criteria and requirements as well. So the current status of the city and county of Honolulu and also the state of Hawaii, and I also wrote down some of the counties. These are the, again, the sister relationships that I was able to find in public documents. I worked under Mufi Hanneman in 2004 at the city and county of Honolulu. I worked there for a year and a half. And I seem to recall that there were over 80 sister cities at that time. So, my hat's off to the city. I think you were able to reduce it somehow, or maybe there's a different classification, I'm not sure. But in any event, this is the list that I found recently. And naturally, today we're here to talk specifically more about the relationships with Japan. Because the relationship with Japan is really important, and it's also a cash event. We also celebrated the 150th Ganemono celebration in 2018. But I was looking at some other data, and it was really interesting to note that right after the war, actually the Japanese American population in the state of Hawaii, JAs consisted 42% of the population, right? And today it's more like 17%, probably because of population growth. But so clearly the relationship with Japan-based relationships are extremely important. One thing I might touch on later, the surfing event for the Olympics will be in Tsurigasaki in Chiba Prefecture. And that might be a great place for us to also target, maybe possibly add on this list, because Chiba's sister state today is Wisconsin. I didn't know they made cheese in Chiba, but that might be, a great state for us to go after, okay? I wanted to feature a couple, the governor already talked about Fukuoka. I want to just feature two more sister relationships, which I thought were working quite well. And I had a chance to talk to Wayne Ishihara on the city of Hiroshima. And naturally, there's also a Hawaii Hiroshima prefecture relationship, but I wanted to focus more on the city. And I think, I'll touch on leadership a little bit later, but they're doing a great job. The Honolulu Japanese Chamber of Commerce is celebrating 120 years this year. And the Hiroshima contingent, the immigrants from Hiroshima, had a big impact, to the creation of the HJCC. And that was one of the reasons why the HJCC to this day is very involved in the sister city relationship with Hiroshima. The relationship with the city occurred in 1959. With the state, by the way, was in 1997. And it was really interesting that the HJCC made this early on decision that they would affiliate with only one sister chamber. So they were very focused, which I think was a great idea. and they're going to be celebrating 40 years in 2021. Okay? There's a lot of activities that occur, and this seems to be a common theme of a lot of successful sister relationships. There was the Hawaii Hiroshima Emerging Business Leaders Program, the Hiroshima Honolulu Friendship Torii in Moiliili. So there's actually a monument there, right, to celebrate that relationship. They have student exchanges, Hawaii Day in Hiroshima, where they feature a lot of Hawaii products in Hiroshima. Reaffirmation of friendship ceremonies, so periodically ceremonies to reaffirm that relationship. And then Hawaii for Hiroshima campaign for the torrential rain disaster that Hiroshima had, so always trying to help, the sister relationship. On the far right, under economic development, reciprocal business visits, emerging business leaders. I was very pleased to be a speaker at that event most recently when the emerging business leaders came in from Hiroshima here in Honolulu, and they asked me a lot about potential mergers and acquisition opportunities here in Hawaii, as well as real estate investment opportunities. So real good, interest in the economy. The HJCC also helped business expansion in Hawaii. They helped the confectionery. I think Consul General Ito might have touched on that. They were helping a company out in Ala Moana Shopping Center. So trying to help Hiroshima companies doing business here. And although they don't have specific metrics, it is clear that there are a lot of people coming here from Hiroshima, so it's incremental to our tourism opportunities, right? And then finally, the HJCC also helps a lot of the Hiroshima businesses on how to do business in the United States. So it's not just in Hawaii. So they find a lot of value there in what the HJCC and the city relationship has. In terms of leadership, I think Wayne Nishihara he couldn't make it here tonight, but he gave me a lot of great advice. He's doing an excellent job, and also the executive committee behind him, very committed to this effort. Mayor Caldwell has been very involved. From the state senate, Senator Taniguchi's been very involved in a lot of educational programs. And then finally, out of Hiroshima, Governor Yuzaki, who has a Stanford MBA, right, is fluent in English, is also a key supporter and leader. So one thing you could tell around leadership is that there's a core group of leaders, okay, who are really supporting this effort. Let's go to Okinawa for just a second. So on Okinawa, I'd like to feature more on the sister state relationship on this, okay? Although there are many city relationships. Naturally, everyone knows about 1948, how the Japanese Americans, the Okinawans, helped Okinawa by taking over 500 pigs to a decimated area after the war. And it's interesting, every time I go to Okinawa, the people in Okinawa never forget that. So that's a very good historical relationship. The Hawaii United Okinawan Association got started in 1951. A lot of history there. The state entered into a relationship in '85, and the city with Naha in 1961. Here again, there are a lot of activities. So again, you'll see a commonality between these two successful cases where they have a lot of activities. Numerous performing arts events in Hawaii, so a lot of groups coming in from Okinawa to do performing arts. Hawaii United Okinawan Association High School Student Exchange Program, very similar to Hiroshima. And the university level, Ryukyu Daigaku, the university in Ryukyu with the University of Hawaii, they have a memorandum of understanding, so a lot of collaboration there. Fundraising for the Okinawa Center in Waipahu. Okinawa really stepped up to help fund that. 120 years of Uchinashu and Hawaii celebration in May. And Governor Tamaki, who's on the bottom right, in the middle on the right side, next to the governor and Mrs. Ige, will be visiting on May 16th. There's a Uchinashu Taikai, a festival every 5 years, and the Hawaii contingent is always very visible there, right? And then most recently, Lynn Miyahira, who's on the bottom right, and she couldn't make it tonight for some prior commitments. gave them a big check to help on the restoration of Sherry Castle that recently burned down. So again, trying to help out their sister state. On the upper right-hand side, economic development. So I was just recently in Okinawa 2 weeks ago, so I'm safe, everybody, right? Governor Tamaki expressed a lot of interest in further enhancing the relationship, especially around tourism best practice, trying to understand more about renewable energy here in Hawaii as well. Areas like waste management. I asked the governor, I said, we should come in and learn more about transit-oriented development from Okinawa, because they've had a very successful monorail system for many years, which is made and operated by Hitachi as well, right? And needless to say, very incremental to Hawaii tourism. There's a lot of people coming in from Okinawa, right? But again, we haven't measured that. We know that there's a lot of people coming, but it's never really been measured. From a leadership perspective, Lynn Miyahira, she's in the 30s. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But she's, it's wonderful to see a young female leader driving a very, important organization like the HEOA. The executive council consists of 22 people. They rotate presidents every year. Okay, but every president makes a 3-year commitment. The year before, the year they were president, the year after that. And that's how they maintain continuity, and they bring in young people into the process. And I was really impressed with that. I was at the installation banquet, the governor was there, naturally Mayor Caldwell was there. And then from Okinawa, not only is the governor very involved, but he has the Okinawa International Exchange Division. They have a division with people there who are on top of these things day in and day out. And then finally, from sustainability, or I'd like to call continuity, I talked about the Executive Council already. They also have a Young Leaders Program. Okay? And I think it's really important with these sister relationships that we continually inject young people into the system. Okay? So again, some of the successful attributes with all of this, there's a lot of shared history. A lot of history that goes, that brings these, relationships together. A lot of activities, because that creates the buzz. People see that. The economic value, and value is really important if you want continuity. If you want young people involved, you have to be able to show value. And we'll talk about how to measure that a little bit later. Leadership is critical, right? And then finally, sustainability or continuity, and I talked about getting young people into the mix. So let's get back to this page, okay? And, so we talked about how leadership is important, but the problem is that, we have limited resources, limited people, limited money to do a lot of these things. I know this is about Japan, but if many of you here today would agree that Japan, the sister relationships with Japanese prefectures and cities are critical, we should aggressively take a look at some of these other cities that are on this list, non-Japanese cities, non-Japanese states, and just ask ourselves whether, because public sector leadership is so important, right? That's an important element for our success, and we need to ask that question. Where do we add focus, right? We all know Japan's impact to our state's economy. 1.6 million tourists a year, right? And a lot of investments here. And by the way, generally we get about 5,000 Japanese tourists a day. Today, I heard it's 3,000. Okay, so, this whole virus issue is really taking a toll. And this is a time where we really have to get focused on those cities and prefectures that can help us bring those Japanese tourists back here to Hawaii once things stabilize, right? So focus is going to become extremely important, and we should, really heed that and take a hard look at these sister relationships that we have. Now, I'm putting on my consultant cap. Okay, and I might be a little less sensitive, to a lot of the history, but just hear me out. it may be a great time in terms of focus in trying to determine, what city, what prefectures fit in what level. And maybe take a chance to split it up in 3 distinct buckets. Okay, so Okinawa, it meets the basic twinning with peace, friendship, cultural exchange, so check that. Reciprocal exchange, educational people exchange, check that. Economic development, absolutely, right? So Okinawa, Hiroshima, Fukuoka, they would probably fit all 3 areas. But we have many of those other cities in the previous page that should maybe stay at number 1 or maybe go up to number 2. And we should clearly define, where a lot of those relationships, ought to be categorized. And needless to say, if it's 1 and 2, maybe we're a little more reactive. We don't have to be too proactive. I don't think any of us are going to go out there and deliberately cut off a relationship. That would be very difficult to do. That would probably choke off any opportunity of getting tourists, from that area. But we may want to be more reactive in 1 and 2, meaning not spending as much time and energy on that. But on number 3, really get focused on that and figure out, what our future strategy should be on number 3. Now there are relationships that could be number 2, up to 1 and 2 right now, that want to get to number 3. For example, the city of Nagaoka, the great fireworks display. The mayor, though, the last time I met him with Greg Yamanaka out there, he was talking about he wanted to find more reciprocity around tourism, around waste management, around a lot of other infrastructure items. So we should explore that. And maybe there are number 1s or number 2s that want to get to number 3. But we should be looking at each relationship that way. So here are some observations for category 3 relationships. If we stay focused and we really look through that list and we determine which ones we want to really put in some strength in, here are some 4 areas that I might suggest as ideas. One is that there should be a strong foundation. It could be, we talked about size, geography, things of that nature, but a strong foundation, maybe historically, there should be something there. The second point is that it's all about value. We have to create value, right? And that should be measurable as well. And as the value becomes measurable, we should consider creating a plan. It's almost like a business plan, right? What do we want to achieve out of that relationship? What's the timing on it? What are some of the outcomes we want to strive to achieve, right? And then finally, it's all about leadership. We got to make sure that for every relationship that we have strong leaders and advocates here, and the same thing on the other end of the spectrum as well. So, just some observations to better strengthen category 3 relationships. So this is the summit that we're looking forward to next year. And this is in May 14th, 2021. And there are 3 stated objectives that I found. Understanding of opportunities created by sister relationships. Number 2, strengthen commitment. 3, provide networking and brainstorming opportunities. And I think these are great objectives, but a little, to be very candid with you from a business perspective, a little touchy-feely, right? We want to get some real results. We're going to get a tremendous opportunity to have a lot of people, here and their attention on sister relationships. So I might, suggest and that we consider the following points as well. Number 1 is to really focus, create that focus. What's number 1? What's number 2? What's number 3? We should have a game plan around that. The second thing is around having a plan that will have measurable outcomes and timing, right? To make every one of those relationships that we focus on and make sure that we get some real measurable results. So coming back to, for example, tourism, can we estimate, exactly how many people from Okinawa come to Hawaii every year? And if we were able to even estimate that, that can dictate how we invest in those relationships going forward, okay? And, you know, I know I'm sounding extremely capitalistic, but I'm not. You know, if you don't have these values that are measurable, they're not gonna last. You're not gonna be able to entice and encourage young people to get involved in this. So it's, you know, it's chicken or the egg, right? The third thing is around leadership and accountability. And finally, it's about sharing best practices and skills. Now, you know, what I mean by sharing best practices and skills, there's a certain way to do business in Japan. There's Japanese culture. Why would every, you know, siloed organization that's running a sister relationship have to tackle that? It should be more horizontal. We should all share best practices on how to deal with Japanese culture. You know, what's culturally acceptable, for example. So that's just one example, right? So what I would suggest is that we create a public-private task force, a task team, okay? And it should include the important public sector leaders, but also people from the private sector, okay? And get everyone to lean in to develop a game plan. And the game plan is about the focus I just talked about, and developing, for the lack of a better way of, you know, explaining it, almost like a business plan, right? What do you want to accomplish this year, next year, 3 years, 5 years from now? You know, and try to define as best as we can what kind of outcomes we want. And then with that, before the summit in May, to go and reach out to those sister cities or states and socialize it, get acceptance, get buy-in from them before May, okay? And then when May comes, we, you know, the people collectively present them to the whole group at the summit. And we make Hawaii a model case where we have a game plan, we know what our outcomes are, and we show them, we present to them what is the art of the possible, okay? And by doing that, I'd like to, you know, just throw this out, make Hawaii the place to have summits going forward. You know, that we develop a center of excellence around sister relationships. You know, so we don't only help ourselves, you know, with the existing relationships we have, but we become a center of excellence around that, because all sister relationships should happen in Hawaii. This is the greatest place, as the mayor said, the governor said, the best place in the world, you know, for these cities and countries to come together to figure out how to create a relationship. So again, I'm not an expert at this, and I'm sorry if I was a little too direct, but I figured this is why you asked me, and I shared my opinion, and hopefully in the Q&A we can talk about it some more. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We've had really two wonderful speakers talking about ways to approach the sister city and sister state relationship. And I'm sure you all have a lot of questions, but as the panel moderator, I get to always ask the first question. So here it goes. These types of relationships require, as Paul mentioned, strong leadership, and as Shin mentioned, participation by a wide variety of groups. My big question is, the bottom line is always funding. How do you get enough money to be able to pursue the sister city challenge? Now, the question is, should it be private, should it be membership, or how much should we rely on government? And if there is too much government, would it be seen as government run? So what is the danger? So I know that, you know, funding is a critical element. There are opportunities and risks. So we'll start with Paul as far as a response.
Sure. You know, so once again, Barbara, you know, and this is one of the reasons why I focused on measurable value. You know, because at the end of the day, whether it's private sector or even with government, you know, government has limited monies. You know, they have a tight budget. So, you know, everything is about, you know, cost performance, right? So, so that's why on one hand, you know, I was a little concerned about coming off as the bottom line guy. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's how you justify funding. So if If we can somehow measure, and there'll probably be a lot of assumptions, but if we can measure how many tourists come to Hawaii, what kind of investments they make in Hawaii, how many jobs they create. And then I went to Governor Ige and I said, Governor, look at this data. So I need funding for this, right? And here's our plan for the next 3 years. And if you do this, I'll double the number of tourists, from that, specific area. Governor, I think you'd be pretty open to that, right? So, and the same thing happens in the private sector as well. So I hope I addressed that question. Thank you.
What I think is, first of all, I think we need to promote the name sister cities. We need to grow visibilities. What is sister cities? Many people don't know, even the corporations, federal governments, many people don't know what sister city is. So we need to promote, we need to use social media. Young people are engaged in social media. I would recommend promoting sister cities through social media to engage youth. And whenever you have events, I would invite as much people, corporation, or profit organization, even a non-sister city related organization, to come to the event and explain what the sister city is. Because people don't want to be engaged with an activity that they don't know. Sister cities, yes, I know my grandkids were involved. Yes, my neighbor were involved. Yes, I know the city, I was one of the guys. So that's how you spread the activity of sister cities in name recognitions. This is very important. Second thing is the difference between Japan and the US sister city structure. In Japan, sister cities are running out of International Affairs Office, mostly, as you have experienced. In the United States, we create sister cities associations. So basically, there are two types. Running sister city associations in a government office. In the US, there are different types, but one of the things is to create sister city association, basically commissioned by a city, and the city doesn't give anybody. Just commission to a sister city association. For example, San Jose Okayama Sister City Association. San Jose Guadalajara Sister City Association. They create association in each sister city organization. And there's a state level. For example, Sister Cities International Southern California state chapter, Northern California state chapter that helps local sister city organizations. So we don't have to rely on government so much. And Japan is going through issues because the number of people, the residents are decreasing, and how can they sustain their, to have a sustainable sister cities and maintain a relationship with the US. So what I'm working on in Japan is to take this model from the United States to Japan. Why don't we create sister city association in Japan commissioned by a city directly? And people in Japan, people love associations. You see so many associations in Japan, even US Japan, US Germany. So this is one of the models, I think. But those two things, infrastructure and the visibility.
Thank you very much. So any more questions? I think Steve and then Mufi. And can I have the lights up, please, so that we can see everybody? So Steve, you all know what Steve looks like, right?
Sure.
He's this guy right here.
Right here, okay. So this question for Shin. By the way, thank you for flying all the way out to Hawaii for the presentation. I know you're going back tomorrow, but you see a lot of sister city relationships all over the world with Japan. Which sister city relationship would you say is the most successful, and why, and how can we beat that?
I'm kind of new to SCI, so I haven't explored all the 400 member cities and states. But what I think is most active is, to my opinion, is Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii state has 4, 5 sister states. I don't know if any other states in the United States have that. California is the most active, I would say that in terms of number, but US, Japan, sister cities activities have been not active as much as it used to. San Jose, Okayama is pretty active, and even if you have active sister cities in the US side, you know, when I talk to people in Japan about sister cities, you know, how come you don't do sister city activities as much as you used to back in the 90s? They said, oh, we shifted our focus to Asia. No more United States. Oh, Asia is much closer. So it has to be on both sides on the sister cities to really, to become really active. But I see big potential Hawaii. Who doesn't like Hawaii? I mean, you can do a sister state with every prefecture in Japan. And I think all the governors will have a great excuse coming to Hawaii and meeting you. And you're gonna be so busy in meeting you in Honolulu. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shin. And Mufi? Mufi is former mayor of Honolulu.
I want to thank Paul and Shin for having this very stimulating discussion tonight. I've been a long time believer and proponent in sister cities and sister states having responsibilities at the state level and the city level. So all the cities that you highlighted in the state relationships I've visited have been part of delegations. Having said that, Paul, I'd like to suggest that on your 3 pillars, that tourism be carved out as a separate entity unto itself. And I know what you're trying to achieve with economic development, but I think tourism is such a major driving force of this relationship that we have with Japan. And tourism is either number 1, number 2, number 3 industry in every city, every region that I know of in the world. And there's not an opportunity that is, when visiting delegations come here, whether it's sister city, sister state, they're always asking to meet with us on tourism. So to me, I think if we're looking at and I agree, it shouldn't be funded entirely by government, but I think if we have a strong tourism component, I see the industry stepping up. Right now with this whole coronavirus scare that's going on, you know, that is our biggest worry in the industry, is that tourism market in Japan. So I think there's a lot of aspects to this. I've always touted the professional consulting expertise that Hawaii has across the board in tourism. This is something that we could share at such a forum like this. Secondly, we really have more than 5 sister states, and we have more than, and a lot more sister cities there. When I was with Governor Waihee as his director of DBID, we actually did a sister state summit where we brought in 5 or 6 groups at that time. So I'd like to suggest, because we have many of those sister city, sister state relationships, you know, maybe they'd be given some kind of observer status at this summit and just kind of see again Hawaii in action, how Hawaii is this bridge between East and West, how we bring people together. I think that would help revive some of these relationships that have just dormant. No one has gone to, because the prototypes of a relation, the most successful sister state or sister city relationship are what you showed up on the board: Fukuoka, Hiroshima, Naha, Okinawa. All those things are just model relationships, and maybe they could stir some interest in them and ourselves also to kind of revitalize this relation as opposed to just existing on paper. Because once you start a relationship, you can't just take it out. We get a lot of backlash, even though for many of those there hasn't been dialogue or communication for a while. So, Paul, what do you think about the tourism aspect being a standalone?
I think there's always ways that you can slice and dice things, but and whether it's tourism or it might be some other industry. I think at the end of the day, it's really about that value, the impact, right? so if it makes more sense to carve out tourism, then, so be it, and I think that's fine. I think there's, Japan, as you know, from 2011, so 9 years ago, they had 6 million tourists per year, and last year they had 40 million. And so, there's this real tourism explosion, and to be honest, I sometimes think that they don't really have a good handle, over all of that tourism growth, and there's probably things they could learn from Hawaii. And I would imagine, so in addition to just having more tourists coming here, it's about Hawaii being able to teach, other locations, other countries about tourism. So carving it out would be a great way to, build more knowledge, excellence, and an ability to, provide best practices to other places, and that hopefully can stimulate more tourism. So, I'd be in favor of that.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Mufi, for your wonderful observations. We have time for just one more brief question, please. Is there somebody who wants to ask a question? Former Governor George Ariyoshi.
I don't have a question, but I have a statement I want to make. And my statement goes back to the time when I was in armed forces, or occupation force, a year after the war. And I was there when that gentleman called us, kept on talking about the importance of Japan making a very rapid recovery. I wanted to be very friendly with Japan, and after they make that recovery, that Japan and America would join forces, being together and moving ahead. And that was the aim of General MacArthur. And I thought about that a great deal. And I saw the relationship expanding and getting better and better. And I heard Ambassador Mansell one day talk about that relationship, and he talked about the bilateral relationship between Japan and the United States is the #1 bilateral relationship in the world, bar none. I really believe that very strongly, and sometimes we take that for granted. And I know that the mission of the sister state agreements, the organizations, the city organizations, have a great deal of time that they spend in making that relationship better. But I think that maybe there must be an effort today and in the past, the President of Japan, of the United States, the Prime Minister, they get together to talk and try to maintain a relationship. But that's not enough. And what is most important is the establishment of the relationship with the people in America and in Japan. And Hawaii is part of America. The sister state agreement can play a very vital role in having people understand how important the relationship is and what must be done to maintain and further that relationship. And I think that's a very important mission for the relationship. Whenever I talk to the Fukuoka group, I always tell them, it's not just what you do as individuals, what you do as companies, but you have to be sure that you understand that relationship and support the President and the Prime Minister, and establishing, making it possible for people to understand and feel very strongly about the importance of the U.S.-Japan relationship.
Thank
Thank you.
you very much. Dr. Ariyoshi, the first governor of Japanese ancestry was beloved in Japan and advanced really the relationship between Japan, the United States, and especially Hawaii. So thank you for all that you did for us. As Paul and others have mentioned, May of next year is going to be very important for us because we are going to have the Sister Summit. And the Japan America Society will be taking an active role in this, and we will keep all of you informed, and we hope engaged in the process leading up to this summit. It's so very important. And Paul, I think we all will take to heart your recommendations to be focused and to really come up with a plan so that when that summit ends, Hawaii will be on top. So thank you all very much. I'm going to ask Raina to come back for closing remarks. I think there you are. So Raina.
Thank you very much, Shin and Paul, for being our speakers tonight and for imparting on us some of your thoughts and about sister relationships. And as Barbara said, Josh has taken upon ourselves to take a lead role in putting together a sister summit next May, as Paul mentioned, May 14th, 2021. So please put that on your calendar. You'll be hearing about it as the months go on, and thankfully we didn't plan it for this year, because then it wouldn't have happened. So we are very fortunate that Governor Ige and Mayor Caldwell have pledged their support for the summit, as well as many of you. So thank you, and thank you, Barbara, for being our moderator tonight. But mostly I want to thank all of you, members of JASH, supporters of JASH, for helping us do the work we do. We spread ourselves thin doing education programs, business networking programs, this kind of program, Jump, and you all support us, you all come out, so we really, really appreciate that. And thank you. So we'd like to actually now invite you to enjoy some food and camaraderie with each other. Some of you haven't seen each other for a while, or you can come up and talk to Shin and talk to Paul. And so thank you very much for coming tonight, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.